What's up, Pineal family? So in this video, I'm gonna be starting some tomato seeds. Yes, it's about that time to be starting some tomato seeds. Finally, after what felt like super long winter, we're gonna get to it, so I just want to flip on the camera, take you guys along with me, talk about some tips and tricks if you are brand new into starting seeds, brand new into gardening, and just kind of show you how I do this. And yeah, so let's get to it. So first off, you're gonna need your seed starting mix. With any seeds that you're starting, you're gonna obviously need a seed starting mix. You want this mix to be nice, light, and fluffy. You want it to be able to hold water, but you also want it to be able to drain water very good. And so how you get a consistency like that and a mixture like that is by using things like peat moss or cocoa coir, and then I add in some compost and some worm castings. You can also add in some perlite, which will help drain it, so it will help it from getting waterlogged. You don't want that. You don't want your soil mixture to hold too much water and not drain, because then your little seedlings will get root rot. The roots won't be able to breathe. It needs air. Right, so you need to have a soil mix, a seed starting mix that drains very easy. And so, yeah, peat moss, cocoa coir, and then you can even also put some vermiculite if you have it in this mix. I do not have any vermiculite in my mix. I just have some peat moss and some worm castings. So those are the two things I have. I just have worm castings because I have a worm farm and I have a bunch of extra castings. Now, if I was you, I wouldn't go out and buy worm castings just for your seed starting mix. I would use that in your house plants or just in your garden or making compost tea, because you don't really need any nutritional value in your seed starting mix, because the seed is going to have at least 2 weeks of food in it. So if you just started with peat moss and you were growing your seed, that seed has everything that little seedling needs to grow for a couple weeks. So technically you don't need any nutritional value necessarily in your seed starting mix, but if you leave it in here for more than 2 weeks, that's why I like doing it, because I'm starting a bunch of stuff. I might forget about it, or life might happen and I might need to leave it in there for a while. So that's the first thing, get a seed starting mix. The second thing, and when to actually start your tomato plants, that varies, right? That obviously depends on your climate, and it depends on who you ask. If you ask 10 gardeners, you'll probably get 10 different answers about when to start it, how to start it, when to transplant. Gardening is part science, but it's also part an art. You have to know your climate, you have to know your microclimate, and you have to just know what you're working with. Do you have a hoop house, right? Do you have greenhouse plastic that you can cover it if it does get too cold? Things like that. Now, with tomatoes, lots of people say 6 to 8 weeks before the frost is when you can start it inside. I like to go more with that 6 weeks, just because if you start 8 weeks out, yes, it's probably fine. Yeah, it's definitely fine, but you're going to have to transplant them more. So if you start in a seed tray like this, they're gonna end up getting bigger. They can get a little bit leggy, and you just gotta transplant it a couple times before you actually transplant it outside. So in my experience, where I live in my climate, if I just wait a little bit longer to start them, they will actually catch up, right? So if I put tomatoes out, but it's a little chilly, or if I just waited a couple weeks and then put the tomatoes out, those tomatoes that I waited a couple weeks, but I put them out when it was nice and warm outside, usually I feel like they end up catching up to the tomatoes that I planted a couple weeks before. So I like waiting more than some people like waiting. Again, that's just my opinion. If you ask 10 gardeners, you'll probably get 10 different answers. So, but somewhere around that 6 to 8 week time. Next thing, you need a tray. So I like something like this. I think this is like a 72 tray cell. Might be a little bit smaller than that. Might be only, I don't know, 50 or something. But get a cell tray like this. Now you can also start it in just a tray without individual holes, just a big tray. You could put your compost in, and then you could sprinkle the seeds, and then you could just divide it out and plant them individually as they grow. That's completely fine. I have this, so this is what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna put one seed in each little cell. That's just how I do it. I don't love planting in already big pots. I see some people planting in like styrofoam cups or like the red Solo cups, or just a bigger pots. And the reason why I don't do that is it's not super efficient when it comes to space, right? So if you're bringing this inside, you can have a bunch of tomato starts in a very small space. It just makes your home garden more efficient, and that's obviously what we're trying to do. Just make home gardening more efficient. So efficiency matters, and that's why I use this. Next thing is you gotta pick your tomatoes. So I have some beefsteak tomatoes right here. And that's really what I'm gonna be planting right now, but I have some beefsteaks. So obviously that just depends on your taste. What do you like? What are you gonna use them for? Are you using them for a snack? Are you using them for sauce? Are you using them for salsa? For, you know, cutting and just putting on sandwiches? That's just your thing, right? What do you like? Now they're all two different kind of types of tomatoes. Tons of varieties, but the kind of main types, you have your determinate and you have your indeterminate. So the only thing that this kind of matters if you're new into gardening and you don't know those different types, is a determinate tomato will grow and it will produce basically all its fruit in about a month window. So in a month, you'll be getting tons and tons of fruit, and then your tomato will kind of just stop. It has a determinate period when it's gonna fruit. Now the indeterminate tomatoes basically fruit all season, and the season is what's gonna stop them from fruiting. So when it gets too cold and your plant dies, that's what's gonna stop them from fruiting. But an indeterminate will grow a lot taller, won't be as bushy, but it will grow taller, and you will keep producing tomatoes the full season. So it kind of just depends again on what space you have, and if you're growing, say, for sauces, you might want a bunch of tomatoes all at once so you can make your sauce. If you're growing more for, just to have a tomato here and there, or if you're growing for your Pineal trade station, which if you don't know what a Pineal trade station is, they are just plant stands that you can put out in front of your home or your local business or your church or other organization, and you can trade flowers, homegrown produce, seeds, houseplants, chicken eggs, and all that good homesteading goodies with your community. And you can go check that out on our website, pinealgarden.com, to learn more, or you can check out some of the videos I have on that. But no matter what you're doing, that is another thing that you want to consider before planting your tomatoes, indeterminate versus determinate. After you have all that ready to go, next thing we can do is actually plant your seeds. So that's the fun part. So super duper easy. It's not hard to plant tomato seeds. Just like any other seed, it's really not that hard. Just take your seed starting mix. I'm going to pour it over my tray. Oh, it feels so good to get my hands back into the soil. The winter time I love the winter, but I also love being outside. So definitely am happy that spring is here. Now, when you get to this point, just like with any other thing that I've shown you guys, is I like to push down each cell to make sure it is actually packed with soil. And then after you push them down, you can then go ahead and kind of put a little bit more soil on here and go ahead and push it down. And then, just like with everything else, I do like to water before I put the seed in. It pushes down the soil even more. So if I need to put more soil on top to make sure that cell is full, it helps with that. But it also is just nice that you just know the seed's not gonna move or get washed out or anything like that. So next, find yourself a stick like I just did. I'm glad that was there in front of me. But find yourself a stick or a pencil or screwdriver or anything like that. Take your seeds and just kind of come in here with your stick, make a little hole, and pop your seed in it. It's that easy. So we're gonna pop a couple seeds in here, and then I'm gonna go next step. So we're gonna put a seed in each. If a couple drop in, no big deal. You'll be fine. So boom. After planting your tomatoes, and you're gonna take them inside because it's too early to put them outside. Tomatoes do not like cold weather. They don't like frost. So make sure that you don't leave these outside. You're gonna bring them inside, and preferably you would like to have a light. So get a LED light, and you can put these in front of them, right underneath, not in front, but underneath your LED light. With a heat mat, you don't have to use a heat mat. It's not as important in my experience as like using a heat mat on peppers. If you use a heat mat on peppers, you get way higher germination. Not as important with tomatoes, but tomatoes still do like the heat. So if you have a heat mat, you can definitely put your tomato seeds on that heat mat. Once they germinate, then you can take them off that heat mat. That is a tip that you can use. And then just make sure, like with any other seed, that when they're germinating, you want to keep them pretty moist. You don't want them soaking wet, but you do want them moist because that is what's going to trigger them to germinate and pop out. So just keep it moist with a little spray bottle, and in about a week or so, you will start seeing your tomatoes start growing. And in that time, I will make another video and show you guys what to do next. But obviously you would just take these out and replant them, yada, yada, yada. But I will make another video. That is not for this video. I'm getting ahead of myself. That's for the next video. So that is about all it takes to grow some tomato seeds. Very, very easy. Guys, I will see you in a garden spring 2025. Until next video, I hope you have a great day. Peace out.